Hey guys, it's Nathan the Lone Ranger with my podcast Inside the Range, where I go over real estate professionals and their lives. Today I'm with a very special guest, my mentor Matt Bjorgum, the guy that made the Lone Ranger happen. Wouldn't be here without him. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey guys, I'm Matt Bjorgum. I go by Matty B. Been an originator for 28 years. Met our friend the Lone Ranger, and I'm going to let him kind of tell you how that went, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. So yeah, I met Maddie here. So it's a long story short, but I'll try to just give you a abridged version. So I was a teacher, as you know. Well, you know, when I was 18 years old, I didn't know what I wanted to do, right?
But how old are you, Nathan?
27. I'm 27, right?
So 9 years ago, you were...
9 years ago, high school, senior, didn't know what to do. I was very good at math, very studious, you know, typical guy. My parents were like, you should be a doctor. They were telling me that my whole life, you know. Honestly, not to be racist, but stereotypical Asian parents.
Be a doctor, be a lawyer. You know.
No, they don't want to be a lawyer.
No,
they always want to be a doctor. Just always a doctor. Because they're medical or technical, but they always wanted me to be a doctor. Okay. And I'm like, why not? I'll be a doctor, right? So I take these science courses and all that stuff in college. And I get into I went to medicine. So I had a lot of fun, right? And I also studied hard. So I got good grades and I had fun, balanced it both. Okay, and I was just like, I'll probably figure out what I want to do because I don't know if you went to college, you go to college?
I did.
So like when you're 18, you think that those 4 years in college are like just 10 as an 18-year-old. You're like, oh, that's so far away, man. Like I'll figure everything I need to go.
Flies
everything,
by.
Yeah, I'll figure out everything. I'll get a wife. Everything's going to be all set when I graduate, right? It couldn't be further from the truth. But third year comes by and I'm like thinking like, man, I got to go to more school, 4 years of intense school. Like you're starting like 12, 14 hours a day or whatnot, right? Just super vigorous. There's nothing against that, but I wasn't like a super like, I love school. I want to be in the library all the time type of guy. And then I also didn't want the prize at the top, right? Like you got to love the prize at the top of the doctor to grind through Mount Everest. And if you don't love what's at the top, then you're not going to have the motivation to climb and give up your 20s more or less to do med school. So I'm like, I don't want to be a doctor. It's the end of my third year, and I'm like, well, I don't know what I want to do. So I call my dad, and he's like, we had a long conversation. My dad was awesome, and he was like, are you good at writing? And I'm pretty decent at writing, but like, I don't want to write for my living. So I'm like, no. He's like, do you like a lot of math? And I'm like, those calculus math and stuff. And I'm like, no, not really. He's asking me like, do you like to do this? And I'm like, no. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Right. So then my dad's like, okay, maybe try pharmacy. Right. Cause it's still in the science stuff. It's still what I'm working towards. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I think that could be the case. And then also, like, I know you and I come from a faith background, so this is one of the time where I kind of became a born-again Christian. I was raised in a Catholic family, but in the first few years of college, I left. I'm just like, I don't need this burden. I don't need, it was more of a religious thing that you had to do. I had to go to church every Sunday, and all that stuff. So I just decided, like, I don't need that. So I just went in, just had a lot of fun in college, but then I definitely felt a void missing in my life, and this is probably for another podcast, but through various events, I kind of got led to a relationship with the Lord at the end of my third year. And that's where, all this stuff kind of converged, where I was like praying for God, like, I need a direction, God, in my life. I need to be really good at something. And so I just, I was like, maybe God put pharmacy in my life, right? So I got a job working at the end of my third year of school back in when I was 21. So that is 2018. I got a job at CVS Pharmacy off of Galaxy. I know you probably pass that all the time, right? And dude, I mean, it's not the worst job in the world, but it was just so monotonous. Like I did like 80% of what the pharmacist did, except like I couldn't write prescriptions or I couldn't like call the doctor or what was it called? Consult the patient. But I did like scoop in the pills. I put them all in the bottles. I alphabetized them. A person would come in, pick up the prescription. Oh, what's your name? What's your last name? What's your birthday? Ding, 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 ding. Done, doom. Here you go. Rinse and repeat for a few hours. Scoop pills into a bottle for a few hours. Like file things. And I'm just like thinking, I'm like, man, even though
this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, I was really thinking that. I'm like, dude, I'm like, oh.
Count the 30 pills, put it in the bottle.
Yeah, and it was like one of those jobs, I don't know if you had in high school, but you would just constantly like look at the clock. And
watching it.
How much time's left? Every day I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can. And even the pharmacists, like I could tell they weren't like enjoying the job. They're like, the minute it hits 12 o'clock, I'm leaving. And I'm like,
I have to ask a question.
What's
I don't
up?
want to derail you from where you're at. So we're going to put a pin back in the pharmacist leaving at noon and that's their time off. Nathan, doing what you're doing now as a loan officer.
Yes.
Do you look at the clock during your day?
Absolutely not.
No.
No. It's so much fun. I
So,
have a blast.
I know I got here early today.
Uh-huh.
And I looked down at the clock and it was after 2 p.m. And I'm like, I got a lot done, but I'm like, where did the day go?
Right.
So
Right.
it's a different
I
thing.
never
Like,
look at the clock as a loan officer.
And Tom Ollis says this all the time. You never work a day in your
Yes.
life when
Yes.
you're doing what you
Yes.
love. And
Exactly.
I love what I do, and like I see it in your face every time you come in. You're like, "Hey, I got this client," or "Hey, I got this going on." It's always in your face that you love what you're doing, and the fact that you talked about how much you love learning and how you were a good student, you got good grades. You're getting good grades here too.
Yeah.
You're closing loans. You're
Appreciate that.
meeting clients. You have agents that want to send business to you. You have people that want to do stuff with you. So just want you to realize that you are getting good grades here, even though you may not be graded like you were there. You're getting A's here too.
Oh, I appreciate that, Matty. That means a lot.
So back into the watching the clock.
Yeah.
Pull that pin back out.
So yeah, they're watching the clock, and then at the same time, I told you I prayed to God. I really prayed fervently for like a gift, because like some people are just like really good at like the high level math, you know. Like we're decent at math, but like when you get to those crazy like I don't know imaginary numbers or something like Cal 4, it's like what the heck are we?
Yeah.
I'm kind of lost, you know. It's just like that's just too beyond me. So like math, there, some people are really good at science, some people are just exceptional writers. I wanted to be a good gift that like few people could match, right? And that's what I started. So I got a job at the pharmacy, and concurrently at that summer, I also got a job part-time at the YMCA summer camp.
Okay.
And dude, that was honestly like, once I retire here, I would open up something like that and do that till like I die. Like that's just the funnest thing ever. You get paid to like these kids. I love kids. They're just so innocent. They're just so awesome. They don't have any, you know, they're just like so.
No
like,
preconceived notions of what's right and wrong. They just know good.
they know good, and then they just have like you show them love and they love you back. It's just not like all weird, you know. So maybe you show a person down the street love, they're like, oh, what's this guy doing? Is he weird?
Why is he being nice to me?
Yeah, it's like, what, do you want something from me? It's like, dude, I just doesn't like people. And I was involved with these kids, and I was so much different from the other counselors. Not to like bash anybody, but a lot of counselors like to kind of, you know, for example, we play on the playground. They just sit on like the benches and be like, walk, or like they'd be like, oh, hey, make sure you're not doing me up the slide, and like really like enforcing every single rule to the
Yeah,
T.
and you, I assume you were out there, the guy that was out there playing with the kids.
I definitely was running around with the kids. I was taking the swings with them. We were playing tag. And here's the thing, Maddie. Like, people think, oh, Nathan's not watching the kids. I actually watch the kids more because they were all having fun with me. And when they're having fun, they're not going to look for ways to get in trouble. They're having fun, dude. They're not looking for ways to cause issues or anything. They're like, oh, this guy's awesome. This guy's having fun. He shows us. He loves us. And when I correct him and tell him to do something, they're very likely to do it because they're like, dude, this guy cares for us. So he's not like just some rah, 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 pointing my finger, stop doing that type of thing.
He's not an authoritarian figure
I'm not.
in my life.
I'm not.
He was the guy who's out having fun with me, and he's asking me politely to not do that anymore.
And he wants the best for me. Yes. That's what I loved it. So that's where I had that job at the same time as a pharmacist, right? And I just loved that job. It was one of those jobs like I never looked at the time. I'm like, oh, I gotta go already, and I hated going sometimes. I'm like, dude, I gotta go. Like I want to spend more time with my kids, you know. So I definitely like I was like it was torn because I'm like this job pays well as a pharmacist. You have a stable career and all that. You know, my parents would be happy, prestigious, all that stuff. And then I felt a calling to be a teacher, but teachers, you know, don't get paid as well. The job security at the time when I was looking was very low. Like, you know, it was harder to get a job, and you know, obviously prestigiousness, you know, there's a little bit of difference there as well. And, you know, my parents were kind of making that known. So it was a huge wrestle for me of like, gosh, teaching, I love kids, or like this pharmacy safe job, but I just didn't, you know, I didn't enjoy it, you know? And then
That's hard.
it was a super hard thing, man. I was praying for like 3 different months about it. And then like finally one day at the end of the summer, I remember talking to my Bible study about it. And I was, you know, I didn't know them well, so it's hard for me to open up, but I did. And they all gave me good advice. And then I remember walking around the Cobblestone Lake, if you know where that is. Yeah, and I was like praying to God, and I was like kind of envisioning being a teacher, envisioning being a pharmacist, and it just did not feel right to be a pharmacist for the rest of my life. I mean, it just, I just would kind of,
You just couldn't do it.
I just would kind of throw my life away almost.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's like
8
wow,
hours
that's
a day.
box I'm gonna check, and then it's like it's done.
It's like every single day I would dread going there, or really wouldn't like being there. And like corporate pharmacists, like, they don't treat them that well. I hope I don't get like backlash for that, but like, dude, they just squeeze them there. They make them there. They can only leave to go to the bathroom. They're in this like small spot for 12 hours because if they leave, they just shut down the pharmacy legally. So it's just the budget cuts and everything. But that's not what this podcast is about. But anyways, man, like, I was.
So you take the job teaching.
Yeah, so I was remember taking a shower, right? And then I was like showing God for a sign, and God shows me like, this is a long time ago, but when I first became a Christian, one of my friends, Caleb, shout out to you, Caleb, he was praying for me, and he's like, dude, God gave me an image of a flower for you. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, man, like, cool. But then like that has been like so instrumental through my life. Like I have many different instances where I've seen flowers when I ask God for a sign. Like the example, like I was supposed to teach. I was like, God, if you want me to be a teacher, like show me a sign. Like that was like kind of my whole story. I remember I was wrestling with for 3 months. I prayed to the Bible study. I took a shower that night after my walk, and I'm like, God, okay, if you want me to be a teacher, like I need a sign. I need a sign right now. I know God never says to ask for signs sometimes, but I asked for one, and I was taking a shower, and on the other, I was in like one of those glass showers. I have a glass shower at my house, and on the other side of the glass shower was like a ledge, and on the ledge was flowers. Like instantly when I asked God for a sign, I saw flowers right there, and I'm like, holy crap, like this is teaching is for me, right? So then I take a year off from school, and I teach preschool, like one of those daycare centers and stuff like that. I started off as like a one of those float guys, assistant teachers. And then I honestly, sometimes I clash heads with the head teachers because I'm so much different from a regular teacher. I'm not an authoritarian, like do this way, this. I'm so like laid back, and like I just like positive reinforcement and stuff like that. So eventually I just worked my way up to getting my own classroom, and that's where I enjoyed it so much more. I mean, like I just ran it like the way I wanted to. Like for example, like every time I wanted the kids to line up, instead of being like, oh, everyone needs to line up, I would play like the Jack in the Box song, like da dun da dun da dun da dun da dun da dun, and then pop goes a big explosion at the end. I would play that for them, and instantly when I played that song, everyone knew to line up, right? Because if they didn't get there before the explosion came off, I would make them sit outside for like 2 minutes or something super small, right? So some enough consequence would be like, oh, let's go line up real quick, when they hear the song. So I mean, I just do stuff like that to make my classroom so much fun. So I'm like, dude, I love being a teacher. This is for me. I go back to school. I finish up my degree in kinesiology and psychology, and then I was supposed to get a master's in elementary education and be able to kind of teach kids after that, right? And then get my master's degree, start teaching. COVID hit, and then so I kind of put my whole program on hold. So I taught preschool one more year. I don't know if you know Everbrook Academy, right off of next to the Target by our house in Pilot Knob.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just right. It's right by there. I went there, and dude, that was like godsend. Like it was a cool job because right when I got hired, they got bought out by a parent company. And then I had a boss that was just so chill. And basically, long story short, there's very little corporate oversight during the transition, right? And then my boss just kind of let me have a long leash. Like I just kind of did whatever I could have run the classroom the way I wanted to. And that was just one of the best years of my life. Like I just really poured into these kids. I could see like just them sprout up and just see them like light up every time I came into the room. And I just see them like before and after I came in, like before and the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and they grew so much. And I had a lot of like play in that, especially with their shyness and like the way that they opened up and interacted with people, how comfortable they felt. Like, cause I just made my classroom such like a family. I know that sounds like cliche, but it really felt like that towards the end of like the year, right? So I was really, then I went to school. Then after the year ended, I went to student teach at my school, right? And then this is once I started student teaching, these are where like I started getting anxiety. Like I went from 10 to 30 kids, okay? And they just stack like with budget cuts and stuff, they stack like kids who didn't speak English. And there's nothing wrong with these kids, by the way, but it's just the amount of like kids who didn't speak with English, kids with behavioral issues, kids that had developmentally behind. Now all of a sudden, like I'm planning like 5-6 different lessons for every lesson and playing 5-6 lessons a day, 3-4 lessons each, right? I'm just like, oh man, like I don't know how to deal with this. And on top of that, the thing that really made me so anxious was the political agenda that was being pushed in the schools. It wasn't even like subtle. It was just like I would be learning 75% of my learning would be like these like, things that they want to kind of teach in these schools, right? And then like 25% was like actually how to teach math, reading, and science. And I'm like, it's just so opposite. So opposite. And you have two kids, you have a kid, I believe, that's going to kindergarten and one in 5th, 4th grade or something.
Going into
5th grade. Do you notice that in schools and stuff or?
A little bit. Yeah,
okay.
and it's That's a topic for a different time.
Definitely different time. So yeah, but that's where I became anxious, and they actually like I remember praying in November of that year of like, hey, you know, I don't know what made me pray this prayer. I was like kind of giving my anxieties a praying, just casting my anxieties on the Lord, and then like I was like, hey, God, if you want me to leave kindergarten, like show me a sign, because I was a kindergarten teacher. And then I saw, like, I opened my eyes and I saw these 2 flower like things on my wall, and I'm like, God wants me to. I'm tripping. And then I look at and then the next thing I saw was my like comforter, which had like little flower like patterns, like kind of like my shirt or something like that on it. And I'm like, God wants me to leave teaching. Like he brought me to teaching. I'm tripping. There's no way. And then like, dude, long story short, at the end of Christmas, it just felt like it was time to go. And I just made the hard decision, so hard, to drop teaching. Okay. This was in 2022 and I was 25 at the time. And I had no direction. Okay. I had like no direction. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I remember praying fervently on Christmas Day for 3 hours, just with the Lord. I'm like, and it's like, because you're a Christian guy too. So you understand like, the creator of the universe has my back. Like, I'll be fine. I don't know what it's going to be like yet, but I'll be fine. And that doesn't mean, oh, I'm just going to sit here on my bed and everything's going to work out. Obviously, like, you're going to, like, you know.
You got to be in action.
You got to be in action. Like, one of the things I saw on your phone, like, action leads to success, right?
Yes.
So I was taking these...
action steps.
So taking these personality tests, like thinking, writing, and journaling what I want to do, like what am I good at, what are my talents, taking all these tests. And honestly, I still had no idea. I was thinking of maybe being an eye doctor again. I was like kind of randomly floated in my head. And then I was like, you know what? I read a lot of book on finances when I was in college, you know, even though I wasn't a finance major, but like, you know, Roth IRAs, like high yield online savings accounts, like basic elementary knowledge that I think everybody should know. Mm-hmm. Everybody, it surprises me how many people have their money in like a regular Wells Fargo savings account. But that's a topic for another time, right? But yeah, I was like, I think I need to be in like the financial field to help people with this, right? So then I got a job offer at the Think Bank, right across from Target. They were really nice people and everything like that. I was really tempted to take it, but it was just like when they described me the job, it just felt very corporate-esque, right? Like you're in a box, you need to say this, you need to sell them this product, you need to agree on this.
Going back to pushing pills.
It's just like kind of like you're a lackey almost, right? It's just like you're
Undertaker. Your job is to fill a seat, and you're just gonna do this. I'm older than you, obviously.
Yeah.
We had a show back in the days called The Jetsons, and George Jetson just pushed a button. That was all he did all day long. And it's like I look at some of the corporate banks, like working at a place that does checking and savings.
Right.
You work as a teller or whatever, and you're just there doing the same thing over
and over. I don't get how that's
like,
so mindless. It's just I would agree. It's just like I wasn't fit up for that. So I declined the job with nothing else, right? And this was like almost before New Year's, like a few days after Christmas, right? Okay. So then you know, and this is how we met, right? So then I get a job. I get my tires rotated on like I remember the date. It was January 4th.
I got a question before you get there. Go back to. You were talking about these books that you read in school.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be honest.
Not at school. It was outside of school.
Okay. Well, finance books. Well, you were in college. Might not have been college books requirements, but nonetheless. Now, you showed up to Discount Tire with a book in hand.
Yes.
And you walked in with a specific book. I had just finished reading and listening to. Called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And it's a book by a FBI negotiator. A book written by an FBI negotiator.
Yep.
And it's a sales book, and the guy has got a Harvard course. Right. So now you go back to where you were. You show up to Discount Tire. You got that book in hand.
So all these coincidences had to happen for me to meet you, and that was so cool. Like I usually have a Kindle with all my books on it, but then I saw that book in my bookshelf, and I'm like, I haven't read that book like in a while. I think I read it before, like skimmed it or whatever.
Okay. How did you end up with that book?
Dude, that's a good question. I think I ordered it off of Amazon, and I don't remember what made me do it, but I just think. Do you
always order random books like that?
No, I don't, and I have a Kindle now, so I usually just put it on my Kindle. But I just was looking for good books to read. I was in a reading phase. I think what sparked the reading phase actually was a book by Malcolm Gladwell, where it's like actually interesting. And like going off one tangent real quick. The most valuable thing I learned in college, Matt, was you don't need to go to college to learn things.
No, you don't. You need to pick up a
that's the
book
most
and read,
important thing.
or listen to somebody who knows something you don't know
need
and learn it.
few $1,000 course to learn psychology. You can learn that on yourself as long as you're disciplined and motivated.
Pick up the books.
Right? Like and there's so many more effective books in these large textbooks with all these flutter gutter stuff that you don't really need to,
I've read and learned more from how to win friends and influence
great
people.
book.
Rich
Great
Dad,
book.
Poor Dad.
Great book.
The Master Key to Riches.
I don't think I've read that one yet.
Okay.
I'll probably put that on the list.
Just there's stuff they don't teach you in school that is fundamentally necessary for anyone to have success. And it befuddles me that it is not a particular, like, hey, you know what? Your junior and senior year, you're going to get an hour of this every day, ripping through self-help, self-development, self-preservation
in the
books.
schools. That's what we need to push. That's
whatever
the
agenda's
push.
currently out there, go away. And why don't you give these kids an hour every day? And maybe it's the last hour of the junior and seniors class every day. They go get something positive before they go out into the world because those
I agree.
16, 17, and 18-year-olds are all out there working fast food jobs. Imagine them having a great attitude from having just learned how to, help people have a better life and to have a better life by being positive. And then you go out and you get to go serve people for 8 hours or 6 hours or 5 hours.
Right. Exactly. I completely agree. But anyways, getting back to it. So I got that book off the shelf because I mean, I was lucky. And then I walk in a Discount Tire with the book. And then I think I remember seeing you there sitting down, and I was about to, I don't like to sit right next to a person, because that's kind of weird. But then I was going to go in the corner, but there was all this crap in the corner. So then I'm like, okay, I'll sit down next to this guy. So I sit down, I rip in my old book. You get up and you go to the other side and you're talking with this girl about housing, real loud. You're like, oh yeah, I wonder how much you have your house there for. I remember you're pretty loud and you're like, oh yeah, how loan did you get? Oh, well, and then you were like, I don't even remember exactly what you said, but you said some thing helpful to the girl, and she's like, oh, okay. And you're like, yeah, well, if you have any more questions, let me know. And then, then you sit down next to me, and then you're like, hey, Ben, that's a good book. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a good book. And then we start talking. I put down my book, and then we just had a conversation. I remember, let's see what I remember. I was like, what do you do for work? And you're like, I'm a mortgage broker. And I'm like, oh, I have a cousin that did that up in Vancouver. So I'm like, oh, tell me more. That's actually interesting. And then you were saying a bunch of stuff that hit me, right? You were like, oh, you have you get to be really solid at something, right? You be super solid at something, flexible schedule. You can have a high income potential, right? And you work for yourself. And then the last thing that hit me the most was that you get to have a direct impact in other people's lives, right? That was what I loved about teaching, right? That's what I love that so much. And the fact that you said that really sparked my interest when you said oh, I can impact other people's lives.
You get to change people's lives.
Yeah, you do. Yes, and I'm working on a couple files right now where that really is happening. And they're like, oh, I have this guy, he's like, Nathan, I pray for you every night. Me and my wife pray for you. And I'm like, holy crap, that is so I've never been touched
Makes your hair tingle.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, I so appreciate it. It's no one's ever done this or this before for me, and I'm like, I'm just doing my job, man, So, anyways, and then I'm like, I think we started talking, and then I remember you showing me that flyer at Discount Tire where it shows you from the service tech or tire changer or whatever, and you kind of work your way up to shift manager, this manager, go up to general manager. There's 8 steps. And then
how all those people in retail are all sitting there in the middle of a transaction getting paid. And I'm like, I'm here and I don't have all these other people.
Yeah. You're like, Nathan, I can start you up at step 4 or something like that. And we can get paid at the same level as step 8. And I'm like, well, okay. And I was definitely skeptical. I'm like, who this guy's clearly a salesman. He's just saying things. But then I'm like, all right. I mean, I didn't have any options. And then I think I'm like, I'm actually, and I told you I was I'll just get out of teaching. And then you were like, oh, okay. And then we started talking. And then I'm like, and then you were like, hey, and I was like, hey, maybe we should meet up for coffee or something. I don't know. What do you remember from this?
I'm gonna go back into this.
Okay.
So back to the book. I look down and I see this, young kid.
Yeah.
Sitting there at Discount Tire, and I'm normally not at Discount Tire on a Tuesday at 2 p.m, but my in-laws were in town. They took my car, and they happened to find a bolt and they found it with the sidewall of my tire. Don't ask me how they put it through the side of the tire, not the bottom of it, but they happened to do that. So I'm there getting the tire replaced. And I see this kid holding a book I just finished, and it was a thick book. Like, when I say thick, I don't mean it was thick. I mean, it was like, this was an FBI negotiator who was sitting there telling you how he negotiated people out of killing people.
Right.
Out of doing chaotic things.
Right.
So I'm like, what are you reading that for? It's a nutty book. And you're like, oh, I'm a teacher. I'm like, what grade do you teach, man? Like, who are you negotiating with? Thinking the stuff in my head.
Oh, you
like,
to negotiate with these kiddos, man.
I was like, all right, so you're a teacher. Yeah, I can see why this would be necessary. Figure out how to negotiate with small terrorists versus big terrorists. Kind of the same thing. I got a 5-year-old at home. I negotiate. Not well. She wins a lot. But so we started talking, and, you asked me what I did, and, I think I told you I sell money for a living, and you're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I'm a mortgage broker, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And he asked, is that something that you could do eventually in the midst of our conversation? And
okay.
I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to swear right now, I thought you were full of shit.
Okay.
Yeah, because most people talk a great game, and I didn't know you from Adam, and you're some live talking dude at the...
To be honest, I thought you were full of shit partly.
I expect that. But like you wanted to get coffee, and I was like, all right, yeah, here's my number. We'll see if this dipshit calls.
Right.
Not to be rude, but like, I didn't know you from Adam, and you're just some random guy who's talked a lot of stuff. So you called me a day or two later, and you're like, hey, you want to get coffee? I'm like, sure. I think, where did we go? Did we go to that?
We went to Caribou off of Cedar.
Oh, that's right, because that's when you met Steve with me.
Yeah. So then, I meet you there for a couple days. I mean, a couple days later, and I remember you pulling up your laptop. We're going do. I don't even remember what we were doing. And then
I was showing you like, hey, I got a big database, and
you were.
There's
show me like a couple files, I think.
Yeah, some stuff for you to do, and like, here's an example of a purchase transaction that's going right now, and here's what what you charge and how you get paid by the bank. So kind of give you an idea of what how I get paid, what we do.
Right.
Showed you like one of our sheets on how we get paid, because we get paid better than most mortgage brokers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
all mortgage brokers.
You did show me that, and I was really intrigued. And then I remember Steve Johnson. He came in. Yep. I think you were supposed to meet with him after, so I sat in with him. This big buff guy comes in, starts paying for like, I think he got like a quesadilla or something, like pulls out like stacks of cash. He's like, oh, here. I'm like, man, who was this guy? It's like this big guy with a wad of cash just buying some lunch. I'm like, all right. And then I started talking to you both. And then I don't remember our conversation, dude, but I remember this part clear as day. And it caught me so off guard. Like, I was getting ready to leave. I know you and Steve were like talking about stuff after. And then you like turn to me, you're like, Nathan, you're gonna be great at this job. And I'm just like, what? Like, you've just met me for an hour, man. And I'm like, how do you know? He's like, oh man, you're a really relatable guy. You're a smart guy. You pick up on things quick. You ask great questions. You can do well. Like, come work for me. I'm like, really? You're like, yep. And then you were like showing me this like, Dave Luna's like, what was it? Mortgage CE or something like that, right?
Oh,
MEC. Yeah. The course. You like, go take this like $400 course and like do this exam, and then just come call me when you're done. Right. Like,
once again, I'm going to tell you flat out, like,
okay,
sitting there, I was like, you know what, Steve, like, this guy might be good. Like, he asks a lot of questions, which is good, because you got to ask questions to do this job. Personally, I like him, and I had Steve show up there because I wanted to find out what he thought of you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it was planned.
Well, he was coming anyway, so I was like, hey, I got this guy I'm interviewing right now, too. I'm going to potentially let him, run loose with my database a little bit. Why don't you come in and tell me what you think of him?
Okay.
Oh, you got a thumbs up.
Got a thumbs up from Steve. I like it.
And I gave you the course, and like you showed up to coffee. You called. You did the things you said you were going to do. It's the one thing you get with me. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way.
If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there.
Yep.
So you did what you said you were going to do. So I was like, here's the course, and I didn't pick the cheap one. I told you, here's the study course with all the extra stuff,
and
like,
tell me that.
Here's the expensive one. Like, you're going to do it right. Get all the courses and read it, study it, practice it, go take the exam.
Right.
Call me when you're done.
Right.
And I left it at that. You didn't buy it right there in front of me.
No. Well, not like that.
Once again, just, here's the bait. You hit it. And if you decide you want it, you got it. Mm-hmm. And the next phone call I got from you wasn't like, hey, I ordered the stuff and I'm going to study, and hopefully I'm going to get the test passed, and maybe I can make some money with you someday. You called me and you're like, all right, I'm ready. I'm like,
Yeah, dude, I
what
was.
the F does that mean, Nathan?
That's what.
Like, I don't even think I had your number saved in my phone yet. I think I had you saved as Nate. You know, you're like, I'm done. I'm like, what does that mean? You're like, I passed the test. I'm like, you got the course already? Like, you're done studying and you passed the test already?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, shit. Okay, well, I guess it's time to go.
Right. Right.
So,
well, I'll tell you this from my perspective, filling that gap there. So, I wrestled with it for a couple weeks, right? Because I'm obviously not going to be like, oh, I met this random guy, I'm just going to spend $1,000 on this random thing that I just found out, right? Obviously, like, you know, I'm going to think about it. And then, like, I talked to my friend. He's like, oh, who's this Matt guy? Like, he was in real estate, too. He's a leasing agent now. But he was like, oh, who's this Matt guy? I don't know about all this. Like, you know, you're not going to be making too much money. Because, like, you were selling me, like, a great commission. But, like, obviously, I knew that, like, it's going to take a long freaking time to get there. It takes a long time to get there, right? And, you know, I wrestled for it for a bit. And then I remember talking to my pastor, actually, about it. We met for coffee. And he was, like, telling me, like, hey, you know, if God like opens the door, which it was, you know, I had the opportunity to do it. I didn't have any liabilities. Like I don't have a family to worry about, luckily, or any like huge bills
so
to pay.
you've been able to reduce down your expenses to live
You cut
minimally.
the liabilities out, right? And then he's like, I think the thing was like, if other people affirm that you're gonna be good at this, like do it. So I asked like most of my friends, like, hey, like, what do you see me as a mortgage broker? And they're all like, heck yeah, dude, like you're a great like a sociable guy, like 100%. Like, and even like I remember at coffee, dude, I'm like, I think you said something to me about like, dude, you're such a relatable guy or something. You're like, oh, I wouldn't be sitting here with you if you weren't. Or I remember you saying
100%.
something like that. You're like,
So-
oh, you're a relatable guy, Nathan.
You're a relatable guy, and if you weren't relatable, I wouldn't be sitting with you.
Yeah.
Because if you're like talking to a doornail, like nobody's gonna do business with you, and it's gonna
Right.
you spending $400 on this course and potentially months worth of your time. Because if you ain't gonna be good at this, you ain't gonna love it, and you ain't gonna pass the test the first time. you know?
Right.
And I'm gonna be blunt. You passed the test the first time. What was your score?
Okay, so like I'll back up a little bit. So like I knew the passing rate was 55%, right? And I knew I'm not gonna be one of those guys too. And I had no other job and no other responsibility. There's no excuses for me to fail. None. And I was a book guy in college through and through. I knew how to study for it.
Nerd.
Yeah, I was a nerd and a half.
I like it.
Man.
Good
I was a
being a
nerd and a
nerd.
half. And I'm like, and if I'm properly motivated like that, I'm like, I'm going to pass this test. This is a new opportunity. Like, there's no way I'm going to let it go. Right. So then I mean, I watched this guy talk and it was really boring, if I'm honest with you, as Dave Luna guy, you know, 20 hours of this guy, like, oh man, it was harder to sit through.
Is that
than,
mortgage
like,
educator? Is that
yeah, the mortgage educators. I mean, great guy, but
I love
just
him, but I hate him
so
too. I'm like,
dry, man.
He's dry, but he's also kind of funny.
Yeah,
Just kind of like, yeah, you know, you don't, you know, like I love you, but you just like I want to slap you too, but I can't because you're funny too.
And you offer like a pretty comprehensive course that did help me
a
pass.
very
He did help me pass the
comprehensive
exam.
course, a fantastic course, mortgage educators.
Yeah.
Fantastic course, Dave Luna. You are great. Your humor is absolutely loved. Thank you.
So I studied my butt off, man. I take all these practice exams. I have this like practice book. I studied. Like I grinded. Like I grinded for this. I'm not gonna fail. I knew that. I knew it. And I passed with like what 93%, you know. And then I called you the next day, and I'm like, Maddie, ready to rock, ready to roll, man. And then I'll let you fill in the gap. But then I remember like one of our first days, we met Tom, which is our owner of the company. Great, I love Tom, man. But he like talks to me, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, you know, you're like, you talk me up to Tom. You're like, dude, this guy like passed the exam, and he looks at me, he's like, you know, that exam doesn't teach you anything about this industry, right? And I'm like, what did I study for then? Like, I'm like, what? Tom was like, I studied for like 2 months
so you
for a
could
month
get
for this
your
thing,
license,
you know?
so you could get a license.
He's
so
like,
you could,
that doesn't prepare you for anything.
Yeah, it doesn't prepare you
and that's
for
where
nothing.
you kind of came in and like really helped me, and I really appreciate that, Maddie. Like, you really helped me with all that, right? Like, I remember, I'm like, I came in and I'm like, Matt, I want to learn everything about an FHA loan, everything about conventional loan, everything, because I'm a nerd, right? I want to learn like all this, and you're like, nope. You're like, call my database. I'm like, but I don't have any. Nope, doesn't matter. Just call my database. Like learn. You just like learn how to sell, and you said talk the walk. You told me, and you'll walk the walk for me, right? And that's where so I had the confidence like borrowed from you. I'm like, oh yeah, we can do all the FHA, you know, and kind of just like kind of talking all that to these guys who I don't even know, right? But it was just like that's such valuable advice to learn how to like cold call and like just dial these random numbers and be able to kind of just. You know, you learn as you kind of went. Like, you know, you don't start with cold calling. It's like, hi, my name is Nathan. I work with Edge. Click, delete, you know.
Yeah, bye. Blocking that number forever.
Exactly. The salesman. Because people call me like that all the time. And I tune them out too. Because it's just like, well, I don't want a random solicitor. I don't need that in my day, right? But if you call in, like, you know, I learned eventually that you call in with some high energy, like, hey, Bob, how's it going? This is Nathan. And he's like, Nathan who? What? You know, you knock him off guard a little bit. And then you're like, well, I'm with Edge Home Finance here. And I noticed that you're having this much of a rate. And like, I can help you like kind of get into your new house with like this and this, you know? And they're like, oh, okay. And then, dude, you know how many people, and it really shocks me to this day, dude. I've got like, when I did call your database, I probably got like 100 applications. And they did not know me at all. And they gave me everything I needed to like take their identity, right? Like obviously we keep it safe and everything, but I'm just thinking like, wow, they're giving me their social security number, their address, their like birth date, like, but it's just like, I don't know. That was just such a good learning experience for me to be able to do that all.
I'm gonna go back to this. Like I love you like a brother, but I also was a bit throwing you to the wolves.
Yeah, you did.
And it wasn't like I was trying to get you to quit, but I wanted to see that you weren't gonna quit.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Like you and I, we watched a show that we both like. I love Suits.
Okay.
It is one of my favorite shows, and
I honestly feel like, dude, like when I watched Suits, I did feel like a connection. Like I thought I was like, what's that guy's name? Mike Ross, and you were Harvey, and you were like, here's this opportunity, man. And I was just like,
you felt a little like the Mike Ross in my life, and I don't want to. I don't feel like I'm that much like Harvey. Like I don't feel like I'm as arrogant as that guy is, but you know, I wanted to sink or swim, bro.
Yeah, you did.
It was sink or swim, and it was like, you know what? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go call the database, and I don't care if you get, whether it's a home equity line of credit, they're trying to buy a new house, because there was nobody who was doing a new first mortgage on a cash out refinance at 8.5%.
Yeah, and there was a high interest rate time.
Yeah, so like, there was nobody doing that. So I was like, here's what you need to do. You need to hear no a lot.
Right.
You need to get no out of your, out of the, oh my God, I got to huddle into my shell and hide for the rest of the day. Because no doesn't mean no, it just means not right now.
Right.
So I wanted you to get a bunch of no's. I think I sent you home with a few books too. I think I sent you home with a book.
You did. It was like
one
of the first. So like on my first day, I got like 2 apps, and I'm like, heck yeah, you know, I got these 2 apps and stuff. But then there were days, dude, where I definitely got like no apps and like a bunch of no's, and that was very hard. I was at your house, and I think I was calling for 3-4 hours, and then just like no.
CJ and Josh's leads.
Yeah, those ones, and then I would just like, you know, get those voicemails and stuff, and it was super hard on those days, like emotionally, because it just like, well, I mean, you spent all this time and energy, and you have nothing to show for it. It seemed like, right? And then you're like, you know, and then you sent me with that book, like Go for No or something, and that really did help. You know, like the one with the guy, like he mad. I don't know. It was like some.
He got smacked on the head.
It was a weird.
Yeah, it was a weird book.
But then you like.
That book is fantastic. It's called Go for No.
It is a good book.
It's a short read. I call it a toilet read because you can read it sitting on the toilet. It's a short book, but it talks about this guy having an opportunity to keep asking the right questions and letting the client tell you when no happens, and not you having a preconceived notion of when no happens. So, and where that preconceived notion going away in his life led him to. So helping Nathan get rid of the preconceived notion that no means, oh my God, it's over.
Right.
No doesn't mean it's over. It just means not right now.
Right.
Come back to you.
And that's like, you got to keep chasing the no's, you know? So it's just like to get to the yeses.
The more no's you can, it's like you want to fill a garbage can full of no's before you're going to get one yes. So I got to fill the garbage can first. Okay, well, let's get those no's out of the way because I want my yes. Right.
And then you even told me like the cold calling was like doing a bunch of push-ups, right?
You're like, putting in your reps,
putting reps. Yeah. And that, I think that's really like helped me, dude. And I really appreciate it.
Phone calls are reps, dude.
Really helped me. Like develop as a loan officer.
When you get one that's good and you can move forward with it, whether it's a purchase or it's a home equity line of credit or it's a refinance or a streamline right now, whatever it ends up being, those are like going to the competition. Like that's like, You know, I watched wrestling when I was younger. Like that's like going to SummerSlam. That's going to WWE's like main event. So when you get a deal, it's like, all right, let's go wrestle this thing to the ground and win it.
Right.
So,
Right.
but you have to do push-ups before you're going to find the one that's like, all right, guy, let's go, let's wrestle, let's go. And every once in a while, you find the ones you can wrestle. So
Right.
I'm very proud of you. You've done like everything I've thrown at you wasn't necessarily to get you to quit, like I said, but it was to see what your intestinal fortitude was. Like,
Right.
Are you going to stick with this? Because I've had plenty of people who are like, you know, they promise that they are a firework going into the sky, being shot off on the 4th of July, and they come in, you light them, and they're a sparkler. Gone. Like, wow, that was months of my life worked on training and helping you, and then you were like, yeah, I'm going to go back to flipping burgers at McDonald's. Like, that's not you. So...
And I love the culture of Edge and what you brought me into too. That's so valuable to my growth because it's just so opposite of every single job I've had. Every single job I've had was so corporate-esque. They put me in a box. You know,
and nobody's trying to help you get their job. Nobody above you in corporate world is trying to help you get better to get their job.
That's true because then they're gonna be
They're out of a job.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless they're moving up, and if they're moving up, somebody's moving out.
Right.
So eventually you're pushing somebody off the top who's either retiring or getting fired.
Right.
But everybody's losing a position at that point.
There is a book called 48 Laws of Power that I have read.
It's a
and
fantastic
the
book.
first law of power was to like never outshine your superior.
master.
Yeah, never outshine the master. But like we don't have necessarily a master. Everyone here doesn't care if you
That's
outshine.
another fantastic book, 48 Laws of Power. You can get it on Audible as well. It's better to read. It's orange and blue.
Yep.
And it's about like the times of lords and lordesses and courts and
It's a great book.
dukes and the chaoticness of how the hierarchy of that works and how that still plays back into our life. We may not be calling somebody a duke and duchess, but that hierarchy still plays. So, great book.
Great book. So, and I was just going back to what I was saying. Like here, I just feel so like I can just be myself. Like sometimes I'm like, am I too like far? I mean, I wear a cowboy hat to my closings. You know, I do all these like silly videos that I do. You know, like just try to teach and do all that, right? And like, I don't know.
I like the cowboy hat.
What's that?
I like the cowboy hat. I like the Lone Ranger. I don't care if anybody doesn't. It's corny. It's catchy. It's quirky. It's you.
Yeah, and I get my job done, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
So like, you know, and I just love how like, dude, if I was at a corporate job, I was working for Wells Fargo or some big bank, they'd be like,
wearing a cowboy hat
do,
around,
yeah, they don't
goofing around.
do that. That's not our corporate policy. It's gonna reflect badly on us, dude. Like I honestly like. When I came to Tom's office and I was like about to start all this stuff, making these corny videos, doing this weird cowboy hat, I asked Tom, what if real estate agents think bad? What if clients think bad of me? And then he gave me this piece of advice, dude, that like, honestly, if my own dad gave me it, I wouldn't even like listen because I'm like, this is so weird. But because Tom, he built this company, he's he just kills it. He's a beast. I look up to him a lot too. And I'm like, Tom, like, what if real estate agents look at my cowboy hat or do this? And he's like, oh, I can't work with this guy. He's not going to take it seriously. And then he's like, fuck him.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
Yeah, he's like, who gives a shit? And I'm like, really? He's like,
Tom,
dude.
thank
And
you.
he's like, you don't need to please everybody. You need to capture just people. You be authentic, be you, attract the people like you,
Yep.
and you'll do fine. And I'm just like, huh, okay. And then
You can't be everybody's cup of tea, but you're going to be somebody's.
Honestly, yeah.
And you're going to attract those people to
that
you.
was
And
like a great thing, and the fact that the owner of my company like backed my like quirky like little like marketing stuff,
be you.
really just gave me the confidence to just send it. I just sent it like it was, and then I just haven't looked
What are you,
back.
silly? I'm still going to send it.
Right? And that's just so instrumental in my growth, man. Like, that's why you said, do I love my job? Absolutely, I do. No other job where I can kind of be quirky. And obviously, when I do the loans, I'm a dog. I just make sure I negotiate. I help my agents. Like, whew, that's a lot of fun for me, right? But there's so much variety, like going out networking, going out with lunches, like shaking hands with people, networking events, meeting people like you. It's just like, there's so much variety in the day that it's really hard to get bored, I think. It's just really hard to get bored.
Me and Andy Trino were talking upstairs with Laura, the gal who works with Tony Zerwaz.
Right.
And like they're standing in the hallway, and the conversations that are going on are normal conversations, but I'm looking around and I'm like, I had a t-shirt on earlier. Like I wear my Edge t-shirts that have my QR code on them every day. And I'm upstairs and I'm wearing a pair of loafers and a pair of shorts to work with a t-shirt on and I'm selling money. But I'm also thinking to myself, I would not be doing this at the big box, Wells
Right.
Fargo,
Right.
Huntington, Bank of America,
Right.
Chase. I'm not wearing this there.
Right.
Nor am I writing my own schedule. Am I able to come in
Right.
at 9:15 today or
Right.
8 a.m. like yesterday or leave at 7 o'clock on a night? There's a bug in here. Make sure that mosquito does not get on me. All right. So I technically put it like we're all kind of almost unemployable because we've now it's like it's like Neo being unplugged from the Matrix.
Yes.
I've seen the other side and I've seen this side.
Right.
And now that I've been unplugged, I'm not sticking that thing back in my head. I'm done with corporate America. I love this.
Yes.
Outside of just writing loans, like talking about not just scooping 30 pills in the bottle and saying to see you again in 30 days and doing their 30 pills again next month. Like everything I do is different. Like today I'm helping somebody with a rate and term refinance. I'm helping somebody with a new purchase. I'm helping somebody buy a fix and flip, their first one. I'm helping another investor get their fifth one accepted right now. And I'm helping somebody buy a house in Texas. I've got a new real estate agent and VA expert in Georgia that's coming over to meet me today. I got to be in a BNI meeting today. Like I get to do the things that help me feel like I'm being successful and also puts me in a position to make sure my clients have success. Like we talked about, helping somebody buy their first house is fantastic. And you're helping change people's trajectory with that.
Yep.
I've taken it a couple of steps further along as I've been doing this for a lot longer than you have, obviously, that I'm now looking at how do I help those people that I helped get their first house? Maybe they bought their first house as a duplex. How do I help them continue that path? Because honestly, I'm trying to make real estate millionaires now. So that, and selfishly, I have ulterior motives for doing this. Number one, I get a paycheck for doing it. It supports my family. My daughter likes dance. My kids, my kids are busy. We do stuff.
Right.
So thank you for letting me support my family. Secondly, outside of I get a paycheck for this, I'm trying to put people in a position where they are winning and they're telling other people about it. So now not only am I changing their life and I'm helping them, get to a point where they're winning. My grandparents, my grandmother's 94 years old.
Wow.
They ran out of money about 11 years ago. Okay. And they are on state-assisted care. I want to know that the plan that I put people on, if you bought one duplex a year as a primary residence for the next 10 years and you own them till they're paid off by letting renters pay them off, I'm helping people build a real estate empire with that. As soon as those houses are paid off the way I do it, you're netting 4 times what it would cost you to be in a very expensive assisted living. Yeah. And netting that income. When I mean netting, you're paying all the other expenses to keep those properties, but you're netting enough money that you've out-earned the ability to be you could be in an assisted living and all you're really doing anymore at that point is making sure that the checks get deposited into your bank account and that you're paying out the other stuff and you got the money to live on. Right. So I'm helping people selfishly not have to worry about that in their future as well. Yeah. I know that if I want to live on $60,000 a year in retirement income, I need to have $1.8 million at 6%. And that's not enough to live on. So I'm showing people how to change the way they look at real estate as well. Because, once you get your primary residence, you don't have to be done with that. Right. The real estate or the millionaires that I know in life, the biggest moguls I know have made it with real estate.
100%.
So that's kind of my shtick in regards to.
It's great. Yeah, great way to invest and just help people. Right. Nice niche you have as the fix and flip guy.
Yeah, the fix and flip and investment property stuff. It's a way to help people realize what they see on TV can actually be a reality.
100%. 100%. Yeah, looking forward to learning that from you too, man. So I guess like, I told my origin story. Like what was yours like? You said you started as a call center, I believe, and
yeah,
run us through the Matty B origin story.
All right. So I started off at a home improvement company doing telemarketing, and I ended up getting the wrong calculator my senior year in high school. And I asked my math teacher what do I do with this? He's like, did you read the manual? Like, yeah, yes. It's like, you calculate a simple payment like this, like car payment. I'm like, okay. That's interesting to me because I happen to be working at at a company that does mortgages, like a home improvement company that finances those projects. So I'm like, is that like the same thing as like a loan on a house? It's like, yep. You have a term and you have a rate and you have you have a balance of a loan. You have a term and you have a rate. These 3 buttons. I was like, okay. So I learned the 3 buttons on a Texas Instruments, BA2 Plus calculator, and I went to work and I said, hey, if you were a sales guy, I'd say, hey, Nathan, what's a square siding cost? What's a square roofing cost? What's an average window cost? And I went from being, 5th chair, if you remember like choir band, your 5th chair, you can't sing a note. 1st chair, you're like, oh.
Right.
I went from 5th chair to 1st chair, and then I moved past 1st chair in this telemarketing department.
What was your role as a telemarketing department?
At that point, I went from being a telemarketer to a resetter. So I was taking a stack of old appointments that the guys didn't get to meet the people at and calling those people back and resetting people in, saying, hey, Nathan, this is Matty B over here at Pacesetters giving you a quick shout. You must have had club, church, or bowling get in the way of our guy getting out there last Wednesday. My guy's finished up a little early. Do you mind if he stops by to let you take a peek? And they were going there to sell stuff. My pitch was a little different because I knew what they were trying to get. I'd call you up and say, hey, Nathan, this is Matty B with Pacesetters giving you a quick shout. Hey, I got a question for you. You didn't buy those 25 windows that you were talking about yet, did you? Mm-hmm. Nope. Great. My guy wasn't able to meet with you last time. I don't know if it was club church on your end or it was bowling on our end, but he didn't make it. And he's available this evening. He's finished up a little early. I want to tell you something. Our windows cost on average $500 a piece. You got 25 of them, it's $12,500. It's going to be $15,000 with installation. Here's what a payment looks like on something like that. My guy's not coming there to sell you a window tonight. He wants to show you the window. You know what they cost. Mm-hmm. He has an example of how they work. See if you can find a reason you don't want them.
Right.
Try to break the example for all I care.
Right.
But do you mind if he stops by? He'll be there for 10 minutes unless you got more questions. Take a look. If it's for you, great. He can stay longer. If it's not, 10 minutes, he's out of your hair. And by the way, you already know what they cost. My numbers nationally were higher than anybody else in the entire company. We had 1,000 telemarketers
wow.
at the time. So at that point,
I kind of naturally became good at selling, or did you read books, or it just kind of came naturally to you? What to say and how to say it?
That's a story over beers that's not going to be televised. No, I learned sales at a really young age. I was in Scouts, sold Christmas wreaths and like Pearson nut rolls and anything else that we had to sell, like popcorn or whatever it was.
I was in Scouts too, man. The Girl Scouts got the market item.
Got the high market.
We got stuck with the popcorn.
Yeah, the Girl Scouts got to sell the cookies. We didn't sell cookies.
Yeah, we sold popcorn.
Yeah,
dude.
We sold nut rolls and wreaths.
Yeah, dude.
Don't get me
random
wrong.
stuff. Though.
Yeah, I still like Pearson nut rolls, and it was like just from being a kid and eating them because we had them at the house because we sold them. But yeah, so I got out of doing second mortgages, resetting appointments, collecting documents.
This is when you were 18, 19 years old?
Yeah, 18, 19 years old. I ended up getting a gentleman on the phone who, and I'm not going to promote him right now because he doesn't work at Edge yet. You know who you are. RH. He offered me a job, but he's like, you're going to be in the telemarketing department. And I said, okay, well, by the end of the month, I'm going to be the top telemarketer in your room. This is like the 14th of the month.
You told him that?
Yeah. Okay. By the end of the month, I was his number one telemarketer in his room. I had more appointments set. And, within about 2 months, they moved me out of being in the telemarketing department and moved me over to what's called phone apps, where I'm answering the phone, which is weird because
this is all with the same company, right?
Yeah, all with the same company. The company was Northland Mortgage.
Okay.
Back then, we booked in-house appointments. Telemarketers would call you up and say, hey, you want to save some money? Rates are dropping. You'd say yes. They'd book you a time to come in and meet with a loan officer to do your application in front of you. And you'd bring your pay stubs, your taxes, your W-2s, your bank statements, your ID, and your mortgage stuff. And we'd collect that and copy it. And we'd go out of this back room and get all your stuff done and come back in. And you'd be like, am I going to get a mortgage? And it was really funny how they did it. But they moved me over to phone apps where it's like,
Well, what year was this when you were in it?
God, I don't even remember. It's a long time ago. 97,
So this is before like emails and all that stuff were
yeah, so
kind of in play,
as an
right?
example, our company was sharing dial-up modem between 3 offices to get our
I'll be
appraisals.
honest, I'm a bit too young to even know what a dial-up. What is
I
a
want to
dial-up
punch you.
modem? What is a dial-up modem?
AOL, like, boom. You know, when you go on the internet right now and you just touch something and Google opens and then you type into it and then Google takes you there?
Yeah.
Imagine being able to make a full pizza on the amount of time it would take you to download and get to somewhere. Now, I'm not saying, I'm being facetious. The amount of time it would take you to nuke 2 pieces of pizza in the microwave is the amount of time it used to take to get to upload a website.
So it'll take forever for it to load. is what you're saying.
Forever.
Okay.
So dial-up means it's going through the phone line,
Oh,
not its
okay.
own separate fiber optic cabling line. Yeah, but through
Okay.
the phone line.
Okay. So do you guys
With,
do?
with Ma Bell making phone calls.
So was the apps over the phone, on the computer, or was it like by hand?
No, I had to hand-write those applications
Okay.
too, because the company was a dinosaur. You know, the owner of the company, one of the owners of the company, was a dinosaur. So, that being said, they moved me over to phone apps where I was doing applications over the phone. And the first person they put me on the phone with, I'm on the phone with them for 5 minutes, and the owner must have been like monitoring how long I was on the phone because he obviously wasn't listening to the phone call. They had the ability to do that, but he wasn't listening to it. But he comes over and he's like, "Why are you off the phone already?" Da, 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 da. And like starts giving me the riot act about it, and I'm like, "Well, you just had me for the last 2 months in this room over here, like booking walk-in appointments." Mm-hmm. So I booked me a walk-in appointment for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. He's like, "We don't open till 9." I said, "Well, I'm going to be here early." Mm-hmm. He said, "Come in here." I went in there. He gave me some money, and I went and bought suits. Yeah. So my mom happened to work at Macy's at the time. I went and saw my mom. We got a bunch of suits, and I started writing loans. They moved me to the other side out of phone apps immediately.
Okay.
Like, you're done over here. We're going to put you in front of people. If you're going to be seeing people.
What was your role and then you in the suit role?
I went from phone apps to I was a loan officer at that point to being a loan officer. And back then you didn't need to be licensed. Like, I literally came out of the telemarketing department and they put me in a role as a loan officer.
Okay.
No NMLS training, no
Really?
fingerprinting, no nothing.
Wow. Okay, different time.
So like
for
there's a movie out there called The Big Short.
Right.
And it talks about like these guys who like that didn't really have any business being in the mortgage industry, didn't pass any tests, have no financial fitness, have no clue what they were doing. The movie, once again, is The Big Short. The idiots in that movie who shouldn't have been in this industry, they were allowed because there was no checking to make sure that they should be or shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Very proud of the fact that I can be in this industry. Fingerprinted, have met the financial fitness tests, as has Nathan. So like, not everybody can do what it is that we do for a living. So
Right. Right.
yeah. So I got derailed. So as far
You were in your suit. You were in your suit.
so
role.
I moved over into the regular side of the business, did a bunch of applications, met with a bunch of people, did really good. I watched rates go from 6.25 to 5.75 to 5.
And this was what year? Was this before 2000?
Yeah, 2000-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that point,
And let me back up real quick. So you said, did you go to college, or you said you didn't go to college?
I did. So
did
I
for a
ended
bit?
up going to Ember Hills for a 2-year
Okay.
period of time. Got finished up with my 2-year degree.
Was this during this time here, or where was that? What was that timeline?
96 and 97.
So was this during the time where you're working at mortgages, or did you?
I was at the home improvement company doing telemarketing and get moved up to resetting and so on.
Okay,
and
and
so
that was when you were at school. What were you studying there?
Just
generals.
Just generals.
Did you have a like plan of what you wanted to do? Like, oh, I'll be an
Absolutely
engineer?
not.
No.
No clue.
Okay, so you're just doing generals.
Lost soul, floating, kind of like you.
Right.
Like, oh, I'll figure it out as I go. We'll just go take a
Right,
bunch of classes,
right.
and
Yeah.
things are gonna stick and connect when they're supposed to. Like, okay, well, your life's not a Rubik's cube. You can't just spin it this way and make it work, turn out the way you want. You actually got to put in some effort towards it. And I was going to Inver Hills. It wasn't like I was going to a big prestigious college. So it just school has never really been my favorite thing.
Sure.
Like
Sure.
I was good at it. I just didn't like to apply myself because I didn't feel that I needed to. Like I'm also one of those kids that I do math in my head. I don't show my work, and that didn't go over real well. So, but yeah, so from that mortgage company, Northland Mortgage, bunch of employees who worked there started a different mortgage company. My ex-wife now, but my fiance at the time was running the telemarketing department. She moved over there to run their
Did
telemarketing.
you meet her at this company, or do you know? Her
No,
before
she
that?
was my best friend's cousin.
Okay.
Just happened. But so I brought her to this company, and she ended up taking over the telemarketing department that I moved out of to be a loan officer. And she moved over to this other company to run their telemarketing department, bigger company, better. We were there for like 7.5 years. And the foreclosure crisis started.
And this was what year? Was it early
2006, 2007.
Okay.
So things started going downhill. I took a hiatus out of the mortgage industry where I was
you did?
where I was not writing mortgages per se. I owned a loan modification company. We were the first and only licensed loan modification company in the state of Minnesota. My business partner was Cam Talaby and another gentleman named Michael Labine. And we met with 6,000 families in 36 months. We brought on 3,000 some odd loan modifications as clients. We successfully modified over 1,800.
And just for the audience, what is a loan modification?
So back during the foreclosure crisis, let's say your value is, or your loan is 300, but your value is 250, and
you're underwater.
You've lost your job.
Right.
You can't pay your payments. You're behind on your mortgage. You come in to meet with somebody like myself, and we negotiate with loss mitigation at your lender to lower your rate, reduce down the fees, get rid of the back payments, and basically get you back to an even keel so you can move forward and not lose your home and get the bank some of their money back so that everybody feels that they won something. So
that's really handy.
did that for 3 years. Did really good things. Got licensed by the Attorney General. Made the news a few times.
Yep.
And eventually I got back into writing mortgages because loan modifications eventually petered out where there was enough options to take care of those people, and they were at that point taken care of. I started writing regular mortgage loans again.
It was back when, 2012 or something?
Yeah, 2010, 11.
Okay.
Fast forward to where we're at here. I've been with Edge for.
Well, so where companies did you go before Edge? Like,
I was at Cascade Mortgage, which was my business partner in the loan modification company. That was his mortgage company.
okay.
I was there for 3.5 years, and he decided that they own the Crave restaurant chain. And
Oh, they do?
Yeah, it's Cam and Kayvon Talaby.
The one at, like, the mall?
They own all of them.
Oh,
Yeah,
like the
so-
Crave that we see at the mall and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
right?
like the one that we see at the mall and stuff. Yeah, they wanted to do that. They wanted to run their restaurant and their hospitality business, and the mortgage business was more like a little boutique fun thing for them, and it just it petered out.
Were you interested in doing that with them or not? The restaurant business? No.
No, absolutely not. So when they decided to exit, we ended up at a couple of other companies. Bounced around between a few places trying to find the right fit. And the broker world was kind of going away. They were taking stuff away, and I went and I tripped over $100 bills to pick up nickels off the ground. I tripped over, I could have been at Edge during that time and making better money doing the same job, not doing anything extra, just the same job, just getting paid better. But instead, I went and chased after a down payment assistance program that was like 2 or 3% of my year's business because I thought I needed to have that. Which we do now have as a broker because brokers are better and we get everything that everybody else
help
had.
people with
Just
down
takes a
payment
second.
assistance.
Yeah. So I spent 6 years running around in the retail world, working for companies that didn't value me and valued
Right.
what I was willing to do so that they could get half of what I was
Right.
charging, what I should have been getting.
Right.
I ended up at Edge about 2.5 years ago.
How did that happen?
The last loan I closed at Bay Equity, I got a call from my buddy, and he's like, "Hey, I see you closed that last loan." I'm like, "How do you know?" He's like, "Because we get to look this stuff up." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's creepy, but neat."
Who's your buddy? Do I know?
Matt Kutu.
Oh, you guys friends before?
Oh yeah, he used to work at Cascade with me.
Oh, okay.
And my son and his mother nannied Matt's daughter, who was born 6 months before my kid. So like, my kid's mom, Stephanie, my life partner, my wife, whatever we want to call her. She took our son Kason with her to nanny Matt's kids while they were growing
And
up.
you and Matt knew each other pretty well at this point. Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, Matt ended up asking me if I wanted to make more money, and he told me what I would have made on the file, and I threw my phone across the room because it was like they took $7,000+ from me, which hurts, and there was no benefit other than they got a name and a logo.
We got a name and a logo.
Yeah, literally.
right there.
But there's a bunch of people above me that all wanted to get a piece for for overriding and making sure.
Let me ask you a fair question. Do you think that they, your first they did some training and they helped you out? Did the retail like teach you? Did they show you the ropes at least? And
I already knew the ropes, Nathan. I knew all of it already.
So they didn't really give you a benefit for
there was
how much
nothing.
they were taking.
There was no benefit to what they were taking to me because there was nothing they were giving me.
Right.
They weren't supplying me leads. Everything I've ever done is I've gone out, hunted, killed, and cooked it myself.
It wasn't like Wells Fargo where you have people coming in and be like, "Oh, I want a mortgage," and hey, here you go, sit down.
I got to go meet my real estate agents. I got to go find my business partners. I got to go cultivate those relationships.
Same as here.
Same as here.
Okay.
Nothing different.
Okay.
So, coming here, I had been for the past 20 years. Whenever I had somebody who was doing a fix and flip, I had to refer it off to somebody else because I couldn't do those. I can do those now.
So so to that fix and flip business, how did you learn to specialize in that? Like, where did you? Because I know you said you did a lot of your own property, so that probably did a lot of going into
fix and flip stuff. I went to a bunch of seminars. I went and bought into programs. Like, I've always had an epiphany for real estate. Like Saturday mornings at the cabin in northern Minnesota, we had one channel that we got to watch, for cartoons. And at 9:30 on Saturday morning, cartoons were over, and This Old House showed up on TV with Bob Vila. And my dad liked watching This Old House, so we watched This Old House. Maybe it was Sunday mornings, but whatever. So we would watch This Old House, and like for 40 years of my life, I've been watching these people renovating houses, making money doing real estate, putting people in their brand new house when it's done. And my dad's finished off every house we've ever been in. I've renovated every house I've ever been in, and there was no reason for me to hold the knowledge stuffed up in my head and not share it. And I'm like, there's got to be a way for me to do something with this. And I've done a few fix and flips myself. I've owned a bunch of rental properties myself. I just wanted to find a way to be able to let other people use what I'm using. Because like, if I don't have the ability to do 10 fix and flips a month myself, it doesn't mean that my clients, if I had 10 of them, shouldn't be doing them, and I shouldn't be helping them using the knowledge that I've got. So that's where, talk about, epiphanies and things that people have said, smarter, not harder.
Right.
And if I can't do all the fix and flips personally myself, then I should find some people who I know, like, and trust and want to conduct business with and be like, hey, you know what? If you put the money together, I'll help you find some properties and let's make you some money. And selfishly, I get a paycheck for doing it. And, if the way I'm, pushing my business right now, I want 10 investors that each do 10 transactions a year, and I'd love them to be $400,000 to $500,000 transactions that they're doing. Because if that happens, I make $1 million helping those people make probably between $4 and $6 million in profit on the projects that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. They use your knowledge to help them out and everything.
Knowledge to help them out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my niche. Like when I go in and talk to a real estate agent or an investor or a wholesaler or a title company, and they're like, how can we help you? What can you do for us? Well, I'm not here to get your conventional, your FHA, your VA, your USD, because I know you got everybody and their grandma out there saying, hey, come get coffee with me. Hey, let me buy you lunch. Let me take you golfing. Let me do all this stuff with you because I want your business. I do want that business. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants that business. But when I'm walking into a real estate agent, I'm going in and showing them, I want to help you close 12 to 20 more transactions this year, and I don't want it to come from you digging into your database and finding your new best friends to give to me. We all know somebody who's raised their hand in our life and said, hey, I want to shiplap everything like Chip and Joanna, or I love the Property Brothers and want to do what they do, or like I said, I'm old. I liked watching Bob Vila flip houses and do that kind of stuff. We all know that person. Find us an investor that we can get qualified, get money in the bank so that we can do a transaction. And then you, as a real estate agent, you go out and find them a house and we renovate the house, and then you sell that house, and then you help them buy another house and we renovate that house. And that's how I help real estate agents and my business partners build their business up. Because, like, let's be real, I got one brother, and if I got one brother, he's buying one house every 7 years, maybe.
Right.
And if I want to do 10 transactions a month, it's 120 a year, and over the next 7 years, that's like 840 transactions. My bro's going to take one of those, maybe. It's a lot of new best friends, or it's 10 investors doing 10 transactions a year. That's 100 transactions out of the 120 I want.
Right. So this one gives you a lot more volume, and you're able to help them.
And I'm moving my business at this point to the fact that I'm able to take this to spots like Detroit and South Florida and Colorado, where I can actually find investors and start. Not only do I have my Minnesota database going and working, I can now get into other avenues where I can branch into other cities and start doing the business there as well.
Perfect.
So, what else we got?
Yeah, so I guess you've been doing this for a long time, and you mentioned you usually have a daily routine. What does that look like? To be maintain success and kind of.
Absolutely. So, some success principles that I was told a long time ago is like, there's consistency that's necessary, and you can't just do something once and expect it to work. It's kind of like you can't just post something on Facebook that you got great interest rates and expect that it's going to just everybody's going to look at all 5,000 of your friends are going to look at your page to see if you posted something today about great interest rates.
Right.
You have to consistently be showing yourself out to people. You need to be posting stuff. You need to be putting yourself out there.
Right.
And that was a big struggle for me.
Oh, the posting?
Yeah, like I had the posting and the consistency. Like I literally got burnt out by social media to the point where too much doom scrolling and too much looking at my phone for notifications. Like I turned the notifications on my phone off.
Same here.
Got hours of my life back every day, literally.
I just can't be bombarded with all that all the time.
I don't want to be bombarded with it. So I had hired somebody to be doing the social media posting for me because I knew it was a necessary evil. And they helped me get all my platforms set up. So my 2 Facebooks, so my business and my personal Facebook, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, Google My Business, and my YouTube channel. And then it got to the point where I'm like, all you're doing is like, the posting you're doing isn't getting me enough traction with people. I need video, and she can't film me if she's not me. So we were at Fuse, which is a mortgage broker conference, like the thing we were talking about earlier, it was a couple of years ago. I went to this before Fuse conference at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was a guy named Kyle Draper talking about the stuff that you need to be doing. And he said, number one, your audience wants to see you. They want to hear you. They want to know you. You need to be doing some stuff that's polished and some stuff where it's like you jostling your camera around while you're walking and talking. And I'm like, well, that's brilliant. I can do that. So I had polished stuff already, which posts every single day. And so you ask about the routine. So I'm going to get back to this. Consistency in posting. I get up in the morning and I'm doing what's called the miracle morning. And I'm also doing trying to do 75 hard. It doesn't always go as well as I want to. I've got some stuff going on with a pet at home right now that's taking precedence over some stuff. So my miracle morning is I get up in the morning, I drink a big glass of water, I brush my teeth, I take my vitamins, and I go downstairs and I scribble or I talk into my phone about just, thoughts for the day.
Journaling.
Once I'm done with that, I do my workout, which is a 35.
What time do you get up? What time is this? Like, is it pretty
I'm
early?
usually up between 5:30 and 5:45.
5:30, 5:45. This is before all the family gets up.
Before
Right?
everybody gets up, I get all my personal stuff done that's allowing me to. So I'm not trying to rush through doing this when I need to be present as a dad or present as an employee or as a business owner, as a mortgage broker. Trying to get the stuff done so that I can actually be present in the things I need to be present at.
Right.
So I'm plowing my way through, getting my postings done at this point. I've finished my journaling. I know what I'm going to. So my journaling is usually like, what'd you do yesterday? Who did you help? What was the problem? What was the solution? What was your struggle? What was your victory?
Right.
Because I need to have something to talk about on the video I'm going to shoot as well. So I get my workout done. I go upstairs. I grab the dog. Drink another. So I'm drinking a liter of water. When I say I drink a glass of water, I'm drinking a liter of water at a time. So I've got a half a gallon of water in me after my workout in the morning, and this is all by probably 7:15.
Okay. Do your kids get up around this time, or?
No, I don't get up till 8. So at 7:15, I'm throwing the leash on the dog, and we're going for a 3-mile run.
Okay. There we go.
In the middle of my run, I stop and I do my 1 minute,
Maddie B's
mortgage minutes in the morning. And that's usually like, what did you see yesterday? What did you do for him? How did you solve it? What's the next step? What's the call to action? And then I caption that, and I make sure that it's captioned so that by the time I get back to the house, I'm ready to post that. And I try to post it every morning, but sometimes you get distracted. But I get a video done every morning, and I've been told by multiple people, like, yeah, watch those videos. Like, miss them when you're not doing them. I'm like, well, now I know that I got people who are actually expecting to see that stuff. I got to be consistent.
Right.
So, yeah, that's basically it. So my kids are up by 8 o'clock, and by 8 o'clock, I want to do nothing other than be a dad and be ready to do spelling words in the morning during the school year, making sure both kids are getting packed up and ready to rock and roll. Shoes are on, socks are on the right feet, and
a couple hours of that, right? Or
from 8 to 9, and by 9:15, my kids are on the school bus.
Okay.
Obviously not right now. It's August, but come 3 weeks from now, it's going to be that.
Then you go to work. What time you get out? You usually leave, so you work. I
usually boot scoop by 9:15, and I'm usually here by 9:45.
Okay.
So. And obviously I'm working in the morning.
For sure.
My email's on. I'm
right.
I was telling you, like, I get up in the morning, and before I get out of bed, I listen to the daily audio Bible. I'm getting an Old Testament, New Testament, Proverbs, and a Psalm before I get out of bed in the morning. And when I'm, doing that, I'm probably reading my emails. I might be doing my social media posting from bed. But I try to get all of these things that I talked about: my water, my vitamins, my walk, my run, my social media posting, my journaling. I try to get all of that stuff done before my kids are out of bed, so that I know I've knocked out all the things that are like what I consider success principles, the pieces that I need to. And I do the daily audio Bible right now because I'm supposed to be doing 10 to 15 minutes worth of reading every day. And I'm trying to get through the Bible in a year. And I'm almost finished up with it right now. But I also downloaded a few new books today, like The Speed of Trust by Stephen Conboy, and a couple of books by Rob Kitterling, by the pastor at my church. But always listening. Like, I'm in the car for 45 minutes here and 45 minutes home. Like, I don't listen to the radio. I don't listen to music. I listen to music in my office when I'm doing math, but like in the car when I'm driving, I'm listening to somebody talk.
It's very good. Yeah. Some very productive driving time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Fill your head with something, or somebody else is going to fill it for you.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on, Maddie. Is there anything else that you want to say to the camera or anything before you go? Or
no, this has been an absolute blast, Nathan. Thanks for having me on the range with you.
Absolutely, I love it, man. I love it. Absolutely. Thanks for being on, brother. See you guys soon. Thanks for watching,
guys.